Hello everyone and welcome back to Matriarch Astrology. Today we are diving into Venus in your child's chart and how its placements can indicate what your child values, their relationships, and their sense of love. Venus can tell us how a child may form their bonds, express their affection, and what brings them joy. We will go through Venus through all the 12 houses and how that energy may show up in childhood. Plus, I'll share 3 quick parenting tips for each Venus placement. Now first, I want to give a quick disclaimer that this video is a basic intro and insights, as I do not have access to your personal child's charts or any of their other aspects that may affect how this Venus will express itself. So this is very general, and in order to get a deeper insight, I highly suggest a child chart reading. Also, I do want to mention that the sign that Venus is in is going to play an important role, and I will make a separate video on Venus in the signs. Now, let's start with Venus in the first house. If your child has Venus in the first house, they are likely charming, expressive, and affectionate in how they show their connection with others. They might draw others in with their warm and friendly personality. Now, here are 3 quick parenting tips. 1, you want to encourage self-expression. Of course, this goes by age and what is appropriate for them. Number 2, teach healthy boundaries. Help them understand that it is important to say no to others, even if they love making others happy. And number 3, support social connections. Offer them opportunities to build friendships, but also encourage time for them to explore what they love on their own. Now here's a quick tip if your child has Venus retrograde in this first house. Encourage self-love and help them develop a strong sense of self-worth that is not dependent on external validation. Next up, we have Venus in the second house. With Venus in the second house, your child may feel a deep connection to personal belongings and find comfort in material things. And they may also have a strong sense of their own values from a very early age. So here are 3 parenting tips. Number 1, teach value and gratitude. Encourage them to appreciate what they have while also understanding that true happiness doesn't come from just your possessions. Number 2, offer responsibility. Allow them to manage small financial decisions, allow them to have a piggy bank, and teach them the responsibility of saving up for something that they desire to buy and teaching them to spend their money wisely. And number 3, support sensory play. Introduce them to creative activities like art, music, or different type of sensorial play, or even just time out in nature where they can put their feet in the sand and really enjoy the ambiance and what they can receive from nature and from different activities. This can help them connect to the beautiful things in life without attaching material things to it. Now here's a quick tip. If your child has Venus retrograde here in this second house, again, we want to really put that strong emphasis on teaching them the importance of appreciating what they have over putting too much emphasis or value on the material possessions. So finding the joy and meaningful experiences over those material possessions is going to be really strong here, especially if it's retrograde. Next up, we have Venus in the third house. Children who have Venus in the third house often enjoy communicating with others. They may enjoy writing or storytelling or just connecting closely with their siblings or peers. So here are 3 parenting tips. Tip number 1, foster communication. Encourage them to share their thoughts and feelings, whether that be through getting them a journal for them to be able to write about what they feel, or even just talking to them about their emotions might be very beneficial for them. What we want is for them to have that encouragement from us to express and explore what they're feeling through these forms of third house topics, which could be writing or communicating and speaking or other forms of expression. Number 2, nurture their sibling relationships if they do have siblings. If they have siblings, help them build healthy relationships with one another. Now, I know that's not always the case in many, especially depending on aspects and other things in the chart, but I think that's something important and worth noting. And number 3, support creative learning. You want to provide a fun learning environment with either books, puzzles, crafts, or even just trips to the museum or to the library. I know that many cities have things like interactive sensory type museums, and I think that would be a perfect way to get that sensory energy with Venus. Here's a quick tip if Venus is retrograde here in this third house. Encourage them to express their thoughts and their feelings without the fear of judgment, as they may be more naturally reserved. Next up, we have Venus in the fourth house. With Venus in the fourth house, your child may find comfort in their own home environment. So they may feel strongly about creating a very beautiful home environment where it's very aesthetically pleasing to look at, and also sensory things for them to touch in their own space. So even providing like a calm corner for them where there's kinetic sand or other type of sensorial things for them to interact with would be great. So here are 3 parenting tips. Tip number 1, create a peaceful home, which kind of ties into what I just said about the sensorial space and having that calm corner. So we want to help them make their environment feel cozy, warm, and inviting. And we can also allow them or give them the opportunity to decorate their own space to their own unique personality or their own unique style. Number 2, encourage family bonds. Help them develop deep family connections through spending quality time together or just doing fun games together, like playing bingo or other type of card games. And number 3, teach emotional security. Teach them that home is a safe place to express their feelings, and not just the happy ones, but also the feelings that may be a little bit harder to express, like even anger, frustration, or sadness. Now, here's a quick tip. If Venus is retrograde here in this 4th house, create a stable, safe home environment that strongly reassures them that they are safe and loved, even when they may feel emotionally distant or struggle with vulnerability. Next up, we have Venus in the 5th house. Children who have Venus in the 5th house can be naturally creative and may love to express themselves through different forms like art, music, or play. Also, I do want to mention that Venus here in the 5th house is what is called in its house of joy. Now, I'm not going to get too deep on that topic, but you can look up what it means when Venus is in the 5th house and what it means to have a planet in its house of joy. Venus is very strong here in a short note. They can also be affectionate and seek those type of connections through different type of hobbies or play. So parenting tip number 1 would be to encourage creative play. Provide them the opportunities to explore different type of creative outlets like painting or art or even music or drama. Number 2, celebrate their uniqueness. And number 3, support social, fun, engaging activities. This could be by facilitating play dates with other children or group activities where they can connect with other children in creative, fun ways. Here's a quick tip. If Venus is retrograde here in this 5th house, encourage them to pursue their creative outlets, but remind them that it's okay if their efforts aren't received or valued by others. Next up, we have Venus in the 6th house. With Venus in the 6th house, your child may find beauty and satisfaction in their daily routines and by helping others. They may enjoy being of service and could take pride in helping out around the house. So tip number 1, teach the joy of service. Teach them how fulfilling it can be to help others, whether it's through small acts of kindness or even volunteering. One example could be where you sign up yourself to be a foster parent for animals, and taking care and nurturing a foster animal for a short period of time could really be a great way to help your child be able to nurture and volunteer and also help you to take care of this animal. Now that goes by a house basis and what you're comfortable with. Number 2 is to provide structure. So with the 6th house, they may thrive on routines. So we want to provide a daily schedule for them if possible, or even just a predictable schedule that allows them to feel organized and accomplished. And number 3 will be to make sure that you are balancing work with play. So encourage them to see the value of working hard, but also putting a value on taking time to relax and play. Here's a quick tip if Venus is retrograde in the 6th house. Help them find joy in daily routines without feeling the pressure to do things perfectly. Support a healthy balance between helping others and taking care of themselves. Next up, we have Venus in the 7th house. Children with Venus in the 7th house can put a great importance on their connections with others, and they can be very affectionate towards those they really care about. They're naturally drawn to fairness and harmony. So tip number 1 would be to teach healthy relationships. Help them understand the importance of mutual respect and kindness in their interactions with others. Number 2, encourage teamwork. Involve them in cooperative activities where they can work with others towards a common goal. And number 3, make sure that you yourself are able to model a balanced relationship for them. You can do this by showing them how to balance their own needs with the needs of others through demonstrating that through your own relationships. So make sure that you are able to show them positive examples of when you do that in your own relationship. Here's a quick tip if your child has Venus retrograde in the 7th house. Teach them the importance of balanced relationships and that they can be loved for who they are and not just for what they do for others. Next up, we have Venus in the 8th house. With Venus in the 8th house, your child may have a deep approach to love and relationships. They could be drawn to more intense connections and have an early curiosity about life's mysteries. So this could be an interest towards the occult, especially if this is the energy of Scorpio, and want to explore those hidden type of things, or want to have their own tarot or oracle deck from very early on. That's just an example. So parenting tip number 1 would be to create a safe space for deep conversations. So allow them a safe space to talk about their deep emotions or explore their curiosities, of course, in an age-appropriate way. Number 2 would be to teach emotional boundaries. Help them understand the importance of emotional boundaries in any type of relationships in order to avoid becoming overwhelmed. And number 3, guide financial awareness. So introduce the concept of shared resources and saving as they get older, especially when it comes to emotional attachments to either things or people. Here's a quick tip if your child has Venus retrograde in the 8th house. Provide emotional support and a safe space for your child to explore those deep emotions without the fear of being rejected or misunderstood. Next up, we have Venus in the 9th house. Children with Venus in the 9th house are likely to find joy in exploring the world, whether through travel, learning, or just exploring different cultures. They may value broad experiences and philosophical connections. Parenting tip number 1 would be to encourage exploration, whether it's through travel or just learning these type of things at home. Allow them to broaden their horizons. And I think a trip abroad would be amazing if possible. And if not, then just allowing them to watch on the computer or the TV on different cultures and watching how others live and just learning about other cultures through technology would be a great way to get this energy flowing in a sense. Number 2, introduce to them big ideas, different philosophies, cultures, spirituality, and different ways of thinking to stimulate their intellectual growth as well as their emotional growth. Number 3 would be to support cultural learning. Foster a love of learning through cultural activities, through exploring different type of cuisines, or even just storytelling from different places. Here's a quick tip if your child has Venus retrograde in the 9th house. Encourage them to explore their own beliefs and values at their own pace, putting a strong emphasis that their personal growth journey doesn't need to be the same as others. Next up, we have Venus in the 10th house. With Venus in the 10th house, your child may place a high value on achieving goals, as well as being recognized for their efforts. They may want to be liked and admired by those in authority, like teachers or family. So parenting tip number 1 would be to encourage healthy achievements. Celebrate their achievements, but also teach them and show them that their value doesn't only come from external validation. They are also valued and loved for who they are. Number 2, teach the balance between work and play, especially if this is a Venus in Capricorn. Help them manage their desire for recognition with time for relaxation and play. And number 3, inspire leadership qualities. Support them in taking on roles where they can lead with kindness and cooperation. Here's a quick tip if your child has Venus retrograde in the 10th house. Remind them that their own sense of self-worth is not only tied to their accomplishments or their achievements, and that personal fulfillment is going to matter most here. I know that I have mentioned that in one of the following tips, but it's going to be very important to put an emphasis on that if Venus is retrograde in this house. Next up, we have Venus in the 11th house. Children with Venus in the 11th house may tend to value community and social type of activities, as well as community. They're likely to be very social and care deeply about group activities and humanitarian causes. Number 1 would be to encourage them to form friendships and participate in group activities, whether in school or extracurricular. Again, you would want to look at the whole chart because there could be other aspects here that can make it a little bit harder for them to want to do this, and we wouldn't want to push them out of their comfort zone too much, especially if we're dealing with more harder aspects. Number 2 would be to teach inclusivity. Help them understand the importance of diversity and inclusion in their social circles. And number 3 would to be inspiring them a sense of purpose. So involve them in different causes that matter to them. So whether it be through humanitarian work around the environment and recycling, healing or work around helping animals in the community. We want to show them the importance on how they can make a difference through group efforts. Here's a quick tip. If your child has Venus retrograde in their 11th house, help them navigate friendships or social connections with others in group settings by reassuring them that it's okay if they don't feel like they fit in or if they feel like they can't connect right away. And last, we have Venus in the 12th house. With Venus in the 12th house, your child may be more private around their emotions or the relationships with their close friends or siblings. They may naturally find joy in introspection and solitude, and they could have a natural sense of empathy. So parenting tip number 1 would be to respect their need for solitude. Allow them and provide them a safe space to reflect and kind of retreat without feeling pressure or that need to go out all the time and be social. Number 2, encourage creative outlets. Help them express their emotions through art, music, or writing, or even spiritual topics, like maybe even learning child astrology or child oracle cards, as they may not always be able to verbally communicate how they feel. And number 3, foster empathy. Guide them in using their natural compassion to help others, but also teach them the importance of setting emotional boundaries. Here's a quick tip. If Venus is retrograde in this 12th house, we want to encourage them to really explore their creative world and their imagination, allowing them to express love and affection in ways that feel comfortable to them. Well, there you guys have it. There is so much more that goes into Venus, but this is just a quick introduction on Venus and what your child may find value in all of the 12 houses. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification for more Parenting with Astrology insight videos. Until the next one, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.